This is Space Engineers. Captain's Log, Episode 12. I am Glendin ThePackRat. Well, since the last episode, got a lot done. The little ship that you saw me start to build that just had armor around a cargo container has turned into this. It is a cutter, driller. The only reason it is to drill is to provide stone that goes to a moisture reclamator, which is a mod that crushes the stone and gives me 10% of it back as water or ice. So that all automatically goes into the oxygen reclamator and or the oxygen producer, and gives me oxygen and hydrogen in my storage. So it gives it to me as I need it, because I don't really have any tanks on here. Now, this is the station from last time. I started cutting it up. The other ship is still underneath. I merge blocked them all together, and yeah, I'm working on cutting them up. I've got an Argentavis that pulled up here, and it says raid in progress. I've enabled I enabled the weapons on the ship that I like up front. And if they start throwing drones at me, I think I'm alright. But if not, I may have to merge block this to the front of that one and take off again. I've had to move this twice because raids just show up and they start throwing things at me. But at the moment, I am cutting this ship up. My little cutter ship looks like a crab. I think that's what I'll call it. The cutter ship, well, it's going right along. Oh, I'm about to weld some more on it. I put welders along it so it'll self-build, and it's just welding itself up a storm. I have more welders that'll turn on and turn off as I need them. And I have a good supply of parts. I have now a lot of parts. I have to basically I have to build a refinery and a assembler on my new mothership over there, so that when I dock, it'll all download to it and basically get processed from there, and the two ships will head on. I started configuring that ship just a little bit. I'm going to have to remove all the plating on it and put better plating on it. But for now, I'm just puttering with it, trying to figure out where everything is. It's got a ton of cargo containers just hidden throughout the thing with all kinds of stuff in it. And I'm just trying to find all those and take them out because I don't need them in there. I'm going to probably wind up gutting the thing, so it's just a shell. I like the shape of it, but the inside of it, I just need to put storage containers and a small room to live in, that kind of thing. I really don't need all that much. I need a couple of processors and things like that. Refineries and to process the ore. I have a mod that gives me extra large ones, so I might put 2 of those in there and then 2 assemblers. And whenever I go out mining with this ship a little bit to get whatever I'm missing. Wait a minute, I got welders on. Let's turn the welders off. That's why we're not cutting this up as quickly as I wanted to, because it was repairing at the same time. I have a welder on the front now. Now the cutters are getting built as I go. I just sort of move side to side a little bit, and it's working out really well. And I'll go through here and I'll tear this up. And it takes everything. If I hit a cargo container, these cutters, these are mods by the way, will pull in everything that's in the cargo container. If I hit a reactor, it pulls in the uranium, and I'll wind up getting that too. There are 4 reactors on this, on the Crab, the cutter ship, and there are 4 gyros. I'm thinking about putting some more thrusters on it, like right in the middle there. There's room for a thruster forward and back right on the top. There's a bunch of room. There's room for thrusters going up and down and side to side, so that I can fill it in a little bit more, give it a little bit more power in case it has to run from something. It really doesn't have any weapons on it, although I'm thinking about putting a turret on both sides on top of those welders that haven't been quite built yet. And I could probably fit a turret on the top of it as well. But I'm sort of thinking about putting a tractor beam on the top so that I can go and stop something from moving and then begin to cut it up after letting it go again. But stop its forward motion if it's drifting. Now that little red thing that you just saw is one of my weapons on the forward ship. They're targeting this. Targeting that gyro as it broke loose. So yeah, they're on. And hopefully they'll protect me, not shoot at me. That's always a risk. But we're cutting up right along. It's really, and there is sound. I'm just too far away from it. See? As I get a little farther away from it, you stop hearing so much sound. You don't have to touch it. Now, this is not locked as a station. I unlocked it to move it, and I can't seem to lock it back in again. I guess they changed that portion of it. So I'm just moving close enough to it for the influence of the blades, because they are mod and they are like a 5x5 area in front of them, just so that they can reach out and touch the blocks in front of them. I got some reactors, which may cause me a problem. But if they're putting power out right now, what happens if I turn the power off? I know I have some reactors on my ship, but is it enough to run everything? Is this no longer going to have station keeping on it when I, take those out? That's another reason why I'm trying not to bump it, because it'll just, if it's not got dampeners on, if after I pull these out, it no longer has the ability to stay put on its own. If I bump it, then bumping it would be a bad thing. But as long as I just slowly influence what I'm doing here, let's get those pieces down there. Move sideways a bit. Those pieces down there. And yes, there's a couple of cutters that aren't built yet. I'm just absorbing the parts to be able to do that. And the ship builds itself a little bit at a time. So let's turn on the welders for a second and see what else we can build. Now, it'll try to repair the stuff that's in front of it, but I don't see anything that's damaged at the moment, so let's just turn it on. Yep, there we go. We got more cutters. Do we have all of them? No, not yet. What cutter is that? Let's find out. Cutter. Okay, on. We have another cutter. Large grinder. We have 2 more. How do you like that? 2 more large cutters are now operable. Now the reason I have those welders facing each other is so that they will repair each other. They have like a 9x9 block radius starting from the tip going out. They don't weld anything behind them though. So if I have them face each other, they have a huge radius around them and they cover each other at the same time in case they get damaged. I'm always thinking about what happens if they get damaged. And let's take a look at what we have in our inventory. We still have 1.3 million plate. This should be up here somewhere. Move forward a bit more. Once I finish this little part here, or I'm going to finish it up to about the antenna, then I'm going to have to go around and get on the other end. Otherwise, I'm going to cut it loose from the whole Magilla here, and it'll float away on its own. It has to have enough mass to stay put. Little things tend to move when these cutters get within influence range. We're cutting up down there. It really isn't exciting cutting up a ship, but it does give you a lot of parts. Now I can turn right around and come up to a ship like this. Well, let me show you. I'll turn off the cutters. Now if I were welding something there and turn on the welders, the influence is so far ahead of those cutters that it would just, well, it would repair everything in front of it or build everything in front of it. Now you see those that are half done? I'll put the cutters on and they suddenly self-repair. I mean, turn the cutters off, turn the welders on, and it repairs everything. So I can use this as a building ship as well. I can just bring it up to the part I'm building, and there's a good influence in front of the cutters that it'll build with. So it's a cutter builder mining ship, and it's, you know, mining not so much, but you know, it'll cut the surface rock, and it's not this really designed to bore into a through an asteroid. It's designed to just take off things like if I find a uranium deposit, to, you know, gut out the uranium deposit. Let's move to the right a bit. I'm missing a cutter there. I won't get these pieces. I'm going to go forward one more time, get that antenna, and then we're going to move around to the other side. And we're going to take off the guns on both sides. And some of the other things that are poking out we're going to take off. Now we're going to start going from this end in all the way back to our ship and take the whole thing off. I don't know if we'll have time to do that. This is a very time-consuming thing to cut a ship apart, but this is how you do it, really slowly, not bumping into it. Just get it within the influence of what you're doing, of the cutters, and let the cutters just disassemble everything. Let's go down a little bit more and make sure we get all that flush. Then I'll go back to the left. Still got to go down some. I like to make it neat while I'm doing it. Sort of something satisfying about making it neat. As I'm playing it, it's almost a meditation type of thing. Now why isn't it getting that little piece there? Are you going to make me a liar? Okay, now we're going to go back to the left. It's going to eat more. And then we go up to get that antenna. Yeah, I could set it up to move faster, which means putting more thrusters around it. There's room for more thrusters, so I think I may actually go ahead and do that. I think it's almost to the point where I should try to make those other cutters. See, the way I have it set up is the welder sticking out on the sides are going to weld those pieces in the front, including the cutters. And I haven't got the welders built yet. Didn't have enough parts. So as soon as we get out from this, as we move from this side to the other, I'm going to put the welders on and see what they'll weld, see what they'll build. Okay, cutters off. Welders on. What will we get built? Anything on the side? Can you reach them? I mean, these have been completely built so far on their own. So apparently there's one welder reaching them, but I don't see anything more being built. Now here's the thing. There's a whole bunch of weapons hanging off the side here. I think I should just strafe down the side here and pull all the weapons off. I think there's a whole bunch of weapons on the other side too. So maybe I should just step sideways down this with the cutters facing it and take those off. Do sort of like this. Go forward a bit. Step to the side and wipe all this off the side of the ship. Well, actually touching the ship. Oh, there it is. I'm touching the ship. Damn it. I didn't want to do that. Back up a bit. Back up, back up. And now I have another cutter that I can bring online. Cutters, cutters, cutters. Now, which one are you to just come on? It'll be turned off because I haven't turned it on yet. There it is. New cutter. We got one more left. One more cutter. Don't care about these numbers. These numbers wind up changing around every so often. So now I have one more cutter. I have one more cutter to do. And I still have the welders on, which is why the cutter showed up. So let's turn the welders off. Let's go down the side of the ship and wipe all that weaponry off. I may still have to back up a bit. Just a bit. We're doing a good job on it. Yeah, this is working. I'll just take all that up. Because when you go to take the stuff next to it or underneath of it, they'll float away. So when you're dealing with these weaponry, and they have a whole bunch of parts in them. So I just want to go down here and make sure I get all these parts. And there's a bunch on the other side too. We'll just get all of those. And yeah, you can't hear it because I'm too far away from it. And we've got all the weaponry off. Let's turn on the welders for a minute, see if we can get that. Nope, it's not going to build that yet. Now I'm going to turn as I move sideways. I want to get to the other side, take that weaponry off, and then come back to the end of this and eat this. Yeah, it's pretty slow going in order to eat one of these ships, but there's a massive amount of parts. I mean, if you go to start mining something, right? And you pull out the ore and you put it together, and I mean, you have to refine it first, and then you have to put it in an assembler and assemble it. Well, that's so many steps just to make a part, like just to make a steel plate. You've got to first go locate the iron, mine the iron. Oh, wrong button. You mine the iron, and then you have to then assemble it. I mean, in doing it this way, you just walk up to it and you cut a plate of iron off. You know, the welder, the cutters just pull it off the ship and put it in a cargo hold, and it's one easy step. So you don't have the choice of parts unless it's a big thing like this that will have, you know, a huge amount of parts no matter what you're doing. But you do have, I'm hitting something in the back here. It's not a good thing. I'm going to have to do this in order to get that. I want to just get these pieces so when I start cutting it, it don't float away. So I'm going to have to go this way. Am I above those? Almost. So yeah, it is a lot more efficient time-wise just to cut this up, because in order to get this amount of parts together, I would have had to go from asteroid to asteroid to asteroid, finding all the different, you know, different elements, different metals and such, to begin even creating the parts to build the amount of stuff that's here. I'm not talking the configuration, just the sheer amount of stuff that's here. And there we go. I'll get that one. Back it up and then cut it off right. And yeah, it's much more efficient just to grab a ship that's already laying out there, a derelict ship. And it's much more exciting too than just mining out a piece of rock, because 99% of what you get is rock and it's not ore. So yeah, it's a lot more efficient to be able to snatch something and then cut it up, which I guess is the reason for pirates in the first place. It's just more efficient. Now, am I too high or too low? Okay, that's good. And I will just go and eat this ship slowly. Actually, let me take a first layer of this off here. Turn the welders on a minute, see if I can get that last cutter. There we go. That last cutter. Of course, the infrastructure behind it isn't quite set up yet, but it will be. When I get enough parts, it will be. We just don't have enough parts here. I think all the drills take a massive amount of parts. I think they're sucking up all my parts right now. But that's alright. I got more parts to come. I just don't want to bump this and have it start swinging out. I'm not sure what kind of power I've got holding it in place now that I took those two reactors out. So I'll turn the welders off and go back to cutting. Yeah, this episode is just cutting up. This is just destroying everything. And this is how this cutter ship works, or any cutter ship. Even if you're using just the unmodded version with just the cutters there. I mean, it's taking apart and disassembling a ship that's already made and putting it into a cargo hold, and then you want a welder somewhere else that you can turn on and then pull those parts back out and put them into the frame you just created. You know, when you put a bunch of blocks down, you create a frame, and that way you can instantly weld back up new stuff, you know, your new ship configuration, and you can set it to auto build like I have this one. You know, whatever ship you're building is, you're just going to flow all the parts into it, and you don't have to get out of the ship. You don't have to put anything in your inventory. You know, I hate having to go to a container and pull out just the right amount of stuff in the inventory and then go out with a welder and then try to weld the thing up, and oh, I forgot this part, and oh, I couldn't hold all those parts, and run back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Drives me a little crazy. So this is a hell of a lot better, just driving a ship. It's like a heavy equipment operator, really. A bulldozer or a crane or an earth mover or something, instead of being out there with a shovel. If that makes sense. Oh, you can get the work done. The same amount of work done. I mean, it would take you a lot longer, but you could eventually do the same thing with a shovel as an earth mover, but, you know, it's a whole lot more efficient to use the earth mover. And I have parts flying away, which happens. And if they move slow, and if it's a good part, like I know it has a lot of stuff in it, I'll go jump out of the cockpit and chase it down and grind it by hand. But no sense in doing that right now. I have just so much stuff that is showing up in my cargo hold now. That, I mean, I have 1.9 million steel plates. I have 57,000 interior plates. I just have, you know, 125,000 construction components. I have a lot of components here, and these should have been up here. I must have used the last ones last time I kicked on the welders. And I try to keep this in such a little bit of an order. If you keep it in a little bit of an order, then you can find these things later on and know exactly where they are. Otherwise, they wind up stacking up in multiple piles, and all these weapons and debris down here I'll feed into an assembler later and break them down into parts, and then have the assembler take that ore and make it into other parts. But yeah, this is the way to go. In Space Engineers, this is it. This is a little cutter ship. I've combined all three, a cutter ship, a welder ship. You usually find them separate. You usually find a cutter ship, a welder ship, and a mining ship all separate. But I was able to, like this, if I turn off the cutters right now, and you see those plates that are down there that are, if I had just put those and I wanted to build with those, I just turn on the welders. The influence is so far ahead of them that it'll just build. Oh, I have a cutter that's off when it should be on and on when it should be off. Let's find out where that is. I have a cutter, a new cutter. A new cutter. It's probably the last one. Nope, I didn't. You should be. That way when I turn them on, it'll go off, and I turn them off, it'll go on, and it's just 180 degrees out. So yeah, this ship is designed to build and destroy and mine all at the same time. It does not have a refinery built into it. It does not have a, oh man, I'm losing parts. It does not have an assembler built into it. It is just a part for, this is just a ship for gathering things. Like I said, I'll have another ship. Maybe I'll keep the ship that I found. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just build a ship around this, like a shell with bristling with weapons, that I can come and park this inside and move from place to place. Something with heavy jump drives and engines, and can move it around a lot quicker. Something with more cargo to it. It's primarily why you use a mothership anyway. I mean, if you had multiple people playing with you, you can build multiple ships like this, and each person would have their own and bring it back to a mothership type of thing, and each would have its own, landing bay to park it in. Now the next thing to do would be to save this and create a blueprint from it, and then put in, and I'll be doing that eventually, and then put in a projector and enable the blueprint so that when you turn it on, the hologram is superimposed over the ship, so that you won't actually see it, but if there's part missing, you'll see it. And with the welders all set up in the right places, even if you were to blow off the drills or blow off some of the cutters or some other thing, you can enable the projector with that blueprint in place in the right position, and then hit the welders, and it will build back the parts you're missing, and that's pretty cool. When I actually build my mothership, I'm not sure, like I said, if I want to keep the ship I just found or not. It's going to be a lot of work to refit that. It might be easier just to rebuild a new ship and have it look something like that. But something bigger that this can just have its own bay to park in. Because this, I don't want any bigger. It's just going to be an evolutionary, adjustment to it to make it work better. But yeah, it's going to be pretty cool to get this completely fitted out and working right. But even the mothership would have its own projector after I get it finished, and that way if I get into a scrape, if something attacks me and I blow off weapons and stuff, I can put the projector on and then hit all the welders. I'd have to put the lines of welders inside of it facing outward against the hull, and all connected to conveyors to convey the parts to them, and it would automatically, it would self-build, it would self-repair, and that's the way to build. No matter what the configuration is, if you especially have these modded welders that have a huge area of influence around the front of them, you can hide them all inside the ship pointing outward. And that's also a good thing if you're playing PvP and you have a bunch of those, especially if you have one inside. All you got to do is click them on in the cockpit and it'll kill everybody in the ship, which is pretty cool, instead of turrets and such. and it'll self-repair your ship with a projector. I mean, you could lose half your ship or more, as long as the projector part and a conveyor going to the welders. If you have the welders daisy-chained where one welder points to another, as you turn the welders on, any missing pieces of your ship gets put back, automatically placed and welded, which is the real way to do this. Oh, anyway, we're coming to the end of our episode. Thank you for coming on a journey with me. I'm going to continue to cut apart this ship and store all the parts. And I will take, well, it's a station really. I'm going to take the whole station apart. I'm going to take that little ship apart down there. And then make a decision on whether I want to keep the ship I found. But I'll see you next episode.